NCAA breaking decades of precedent this week, passing rules Monday allowing colleges to pay student athletes. It's a response to a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit settlement. Athletes can now be compensated for their name, image, and likeness, nil, and potentially other compensation while still adhering to a cap on direct payments from schools, pending a judge's approval of the settlement.
Yeah, let's welcome now Federal Commissioner for the Commission of Social Status of Black Men and Boys and former player for the Vikings, Mr. Jack Brewer. Jack, I don't remember where you played college, but I wish this was around back in the day. Yeah, I wish this was around back in the day. Some of these guys are making a lot of money, so I wanted to have you on to say, what do you think about this?
You know, I did my college dissertation on why athletes should get paid, and that was over 25 years ago. And so it's incredible to see what's happened in regards to that, the steps that the NCAA has taken. Hey, I'm not as big a fan of doing it the way that they do. I think that there should be more caps. I think some of these young men are getting paid just too much money early on. I think there should be some restriction on time period. You shouldn't be able to go team to team to team to team every year and never have any loyalty to the school. I think the concept of student athlete has been compromised in our nation, and I think that's unfortunate. But at the same time, you know, I am a capitalist, and I do agree that, you know, people need to be able to make a living and earn, and also with so much money, when millions and even billions of dollars is being made off the back of athletes, they should be a part of that. They should be receiving some compensation. So I go back and forth. But I think it can get to be too much if you look across the board at what's happening in the college football, particularly, even in basketball. Every year there's a different roster. And so these kids are so used to, in this society, of having instant gratification. And I think this is just exacerbating that, because these kids are getting what they want when they want. And I think, unfortunately, you see what happens to them later on in life. Unfortunately, many spend all their money, don't save it, don't do the right things, and are not graduating from college. And that's the biggest tragedy in this whole situation.
No, absolutely it is. I mean, you go to college because to get an education, presumably, you can get drafted.
Which has value, by the way.
Which has value. You can get drafted or go pro. A lot of people skip college. But how is this going to change collegiate sports? You mentioned rosters. Students going from one school to another school to another school to another school and just for whatever the biggest paycheck is. And how is it going to affect kind of the feeder into the pros when you have so many different student athletes, you know, not really getting an education or being on a team, but rather leaving that team every year for a better deal?
So what's happening is the teams at the top, right? They are able to obviously pay the most money. They get the biggest UIL or NIL deals. And so those NIL deals are coming in, and these teams are obviously the powerhouses. And so it's changing the landscape and how the conferences are set up. Now you have power conferences, 16, some of them 20 teams in one conference. But what's happening is like you mentioned, it's trickling down into the high school level, right, into the prep sports. And that's where the biggest tragedy is happening, because these things are also becoming, you know, focused primarily on money. I coach youth sports, and you see it in baseball. You definitely see it in football and in basketball. These kids are starting to get paid at really early ages, and they're focused. Where I grew up, I was a top athlete in high school, but my dream was to go to college and get an education. And now these kids their dreams are turning to go to college just to make money, and that's not good for America. It's not good for our society.
Right. Yeah, Jack, I agree with everything you're saying. They should limit how much money you can make, but I'm a capitalist like you are, and limit how frequently you can go to another school. When I was in school, if you transferred, you had to sit out a year, so nobody would transfer unless it was a really big deal. But we should continue this when we have more time, Jack.
Defer the compensation. You know, start deferring some of these kids' compensation. Push it out into retirement.
That would be perfect.
Push it on to later on in life with the pay. But kids driving Ferraris at 18 years old as freshmen. I mean, I think that sets the wrong precedent.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, Jack. Glad we had you on to talk about this. This conversation needs to continue. It needs to be continued. Jack Brewer, thank you.
God bless you. Thanks so much for having me.